Hello everyone. Welcome to the build and release call. And as people keep joining in, I will just start with the agenda item so that we don't lose any more time. So we are already 5 minutes past. So I'll skip to the second item first, which is about Aditya's stuff about adding workflow to push supported components onto the docs. So I'll give a quick overview about what the ask is, and if Aditya you have any doubts, then you can ask. And okay. Okay, so basically, like we have this compatibility matrix, which shows whether we are basically the end-to-end tests are passing or not. Something similar to this table is needed, and the data. I'll tell you where you're supposed to fetch the data from, and then how the table is going to look like, and how the workflow. So there are two parts. The first thing is to first fetch the basically write a workflow to fetch the data from these repositories. So I'll give you one of the flows. So for example, we have so to get the components for istio adapter, what we would be doing is that we'll come here in this repository, and in this repository you'll find temp inside of. So the path is same for all the repositories: templates /om/ workloads. So here we have all these versions, right? So what we can do is that one of the columns, the rightmost column can be components, and what that can have is the basically sorted. Basically it will show the latest component. So for example, here the latest component would be, let's say, 1.14.1. So it would show 1.14.1, and when someone clicks on that, it would be similar to clicking on, when you click on this particular folder, you get all these components. So you have to extract these names from here. So although these names aren't formatted properly, so yeah, if needed we can format them as well. But the ask is that, as you can see, for each of the components we have here definitions and schemas. So all you need to do is just take this in the dot separated string. You have to take the first string, like authorization policy, destination rule, and envoy filter. You can either use the name of this file or the name of this file for reference, and you have to display all of these components under that particular version, and you have to do the same for all versions. So for the default would be for the latest version, we would be showing like for right now, that by sorting, that latest version is 1.14.1. So when user clicks on that, it shows the number of components for this particular version, which in this case would come around, I guess, 14 or something. And users can then switch between versions, and they can scroll down, and it would be just similar to scrolling down this particular this particular directory. And yeah, you'll have to do this for so these things can be done for all the adapters. And then we also need to show the supported Kubernetes components. For supported Kubernetes components, we do not. Okay, so this was one of the things that was on the to-do list, to actually have statically stored those some very common Kubernetes components like pods and deployments and services. And we don't have them right now anywhere, because mostly when we connect to right now, the case is that when we connect to a Kubernetes cluster, we on the spot generate those components. So we don't store them statically. But for the purposes of this particular docs, this particular table, we can actually have those somewhere. So you can generate those components. I will help you generating those components, the Kubernetes core components, and where to store them. Okay, Lee's here. So he can have. I think he can give us more perspective on where do you think, Lee, we should store those Kubernetes components if we store them statically for purposes like these.
Yeah, for now, probably within the Meshery repo, maybe under. There's a little bit of renaming that might be kind of nice anyway. I think there might be 2 folders or even 3 folders that could potentially be consolidated if my memory serves. So because we've got things like Ohm. Okay, good. This seems like a natural landing spot for as kind of the answer to the question that you just asked. So, okay, but we're not strictly adhering to Ohm, and so maybe we would want to rename that. Okay, if you go back a couple to the root folder, there's also other potential. I mean, so like that's definitely an answer for your question. But if we look at consolidating a little bit, and it's kind of nice to keep to consolidate, to like help just organize and structure over time. So it's things like internal models, and then those seem like candidates. There's other things that are kind of handlers and helper. Like handlers seems like those could go under wherever the rest of our Golang is, if that's not where most of it is. But there's kind of two UI top level folders. There's no top level server folder. There is a top level docs. There is a top level Meshery CTL. So if your mental model was, gosh, we've got the way that we speak about our components is like Meshery UI, Meshery docs, Meshery CTL, Meshery CLI, Meshery server. Then maybe we would have top level folders to capture those. And for these models, these components, there could be an argument made that it would have its own top level folder, because it over time, it wouldn't just be Kubernetes, but we would be generating components for Spiffy and Spire, Argo and Jaeger and all of the ecosystem things, because we're ultimately going to let people design cloud native infrastructure, like any infrastructure. But for now, that could also be consolidated under a top level like server folder. So more of an answer than you'd wanted, because there's a little bit of work inside there. But yeah, maybe a proposal to put into for the restructuring. Maybe a proposal that I would put forward for you guys to comment on. But immediately, it feels like, what do you think? Does this feel like a pretty good fit?
Yeah. So about the directory consolidation, I have taken a note on that. I'll see what are the caveats of it, and I'll get back to you about that. And we'll get rid of this OM altogether. I think we should be. I will create a PR by this weekend to get rid of this. What should we just name it, components, or if we get rid of this thing, because this is just a directory name at this point. We're not using it internally anywhere. So.
The other one that strikes me is like, components. It's a great suggestion. That would be hard to argue with. There's this other, and granted, these are two different things, but there's another folder called models, which also feels like a fit. So, something that can be changed over time too.
So Aditya, for now, I think we'll rename this later, but for now, I think we can have a directory name, like Lee said, we might have static components for Spiffy and Spire and for other stuff as well. So I think we can have those thing in separate. So basically, this application is Meshery's core component, so we are the ones generating schema for it. So we are not putting it. So one thing we can do is we can create another folder core and then put these two files, or just leave them for now and create another folder Kubernetes, and inside of Kubernetes folder we can have some components like pods and deployment. So and in that table, what you'll be doing is just like in other repositories, you're going to templates OM workloads. Here you'll be going to OM workloads K8s here. And here you'll be getting all of the Kubernetes components. And the one thing more, that instead of statically doing this thing, this can be one good, we can have a workflow that does it every 24 hours. So it starts a Kubernetes cluster, it takes their components and pushes them here. I'll create an issue for this. For now, we can manually have these so that you can get along with the table, and later on we can have a workflow which does that, so that we don't have to update it manually. So have you understood the ask here about the showing the number of components?
Okay. So fetch like whatever the versions are there in the particular adapter repository. And when a user clicks on that version, we show all the like everything that is inside that folder in the repository, right?
Not everything. So we have for each of the component, like authorization policy, we have a definition and a schema. So we don't want to show them everything twice. Just take that authorization policy and destination rule and so on and so forth.
Yeah. All right. And for the design of the table, like how do we want to show them? Like we can like collapse everything, like mention Meshery, istio, Meshery linker, Meshery, Kuma, everything collapse it. And when a user clicks on one of the component, it opens up and shows all the version. And when a user clicks the version, it shows the component. Can we do like that, or will it be too long of a table? Ashish, you're stuck.
Oops, yeah, we might have lost him for a second. If you like, maybe just a quick proposal in a spreadsheet, just because it's kind of a tabular thing that you're looking at. It would be hard to have too much information.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I just broke off for a while. So, what were you saying, Aditya?
So I was talking about the design of the table, like how we want it. I was thinking maybe we collapse all the Meshery components, like Meshery istio, Meshery Kuma, Meshery linker. And when the user clicks on any one of those, it opens up and shows all the version. And again, when the user clicks one of the version, it shows all the components.
Okay, or we can have like we can have the one column named component, which would have just Meshery, maybe that the core component application thing that we have, and then Kubernetes, and then Linkerd, istio, and all. And one column can be supported components, and there we only show for the latest component by default, so that we don't clutter it. And then when user can basically there is some kind of a down button there, so user can click on that and scroll down and select different version, and then we will show the number of components for that version. And if they click on that particular thing, they'll get the actual components, the things that we were counting and showing them. Like it would basically expand into authorization that list. Just like, okay, so let me share my screen first. Yeah, so just like we have here, when we click on something, it expands into these test results. So it would be like when they click on, so here we would have that version, and when they click on the version, it would be like authorization policy, destination rule, and so on and so forth. And they can change version from here, and here we'll also show the number in bracket, maybe that would be the number of supported components for this particular version. And on top level, we can, or maybe somewhere around here, we can show the total number of components. Basically, we aggregate over all of the versions.
And user will be able to select those version like from there.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll make a design in Excel then and show it in the CI. Then we can, if it's all right, then I can start implementing.
Yeah. I think once we have the workflow that fetches everything, that for reformatting the table is the easy part.
Oh yeah, and right now it's gonna be manual work, right? The previous one we don't have any workflow for it. From now onwards,
so the part where we fetch the stuff won't be manual, should not be manual. So the part where we actually go and basically download all the, I don't think we should download all the files. We can use GitHub API to just list the file names from templates on workloads, and thereon we can go forward. So there can be a small workflow that kicks in. Maybe I think it should kick in I guess in each of the adapters, and whenever a release is made, or whenever something is merged, and you can basically the inside of the path ignore, you should only kick that when something changes inside the templates directory, so that every time because we already have a pattern component generator which kicks in every 24 hours and generates new components for us. So when that kicks in, and when that changes that makes some changes in the templates directory, then is when we want to kick this new workflow, which will actually go and extract those things and then push them into the Meshery core repository. The names, so it would be like it can be a JSON file that can be pushed into or maybe inside of the workflow, like we are doing with the end-to-end test, we can on the fly create that markdown and push it directly instead of pushing a JSON or anything.
Okay.
If you need any help, if you'll need any help with the workflow, you can ping me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I will need help, but yeah.
Okay, so I think we can move on to the, okay, so the second item was about this, and the first item was about multiple Kate's version. And okay, so about this thing is, I don't think we have uh, the folks who, okay, so in the last call, few people volunteered for this thing, but I don't think we have those people right now. So I would mark this thing as stale, and I would believe that they are not onto this thing. So I have to regurgitate if someone wants to pick this up. So right now, like we have, if you click on any of these test results, you're seeing this version, this Kubernetes version, and this is actually a stale version. We are not actually, the tests are not running for this version. So to give you an example, if I go over to like inside of istio repository, if I look at any of the action from which this thing is generated, so it would be right around, okay, sorry, I'm not in istio. uh, so I guess it was, yep, this one. If I, okay, so now all these test results are actually running for each of the different Kubernetes versions. So here, like one ran for this version, one ran for this version, and these versions are passed from the core workflow that we have inside of Meshery. And instead of reflecting those versions, we are still getting we're still getting the static version over here, which is to say the 1.20.11. So the slight changes would be needed. That so what happens in this particular workflow, which runs over here, is that it after it, there is this update docs job, and what it does is that it send it basically, this is the one responsible for creating the particular the markdown, which is then committed. So here, the way this markdown is created is we first take this JSON that was created, and from this JSON, as you can see here, this thing is hard coded, but this shouldn't be hard coded. I actually went over the whole thing and how this thing can be corrected in the last call. So if you need more references, you can look at the recording of the last call. So the ask here is to get rid of this Kate's version, and instead of this thing, have basically when the exact Kubernetes version under for which we run the tests, we need to have that version. So we need to have that version as the key, and the rest of the results as the value. And then one can be 1.2, 2.2. I'll show you the core workflow where we're actually setting it, so you have more clue what I'm talking about. So here you can see, yeah. So as you can see here, we are actually setting these three Kubernetes versions. We are testing for 1.20, 1.21, 1.22, and we should be having these three things over here. So it would be, so when you right now when you expand this thing, you only get, basically you get these things expanded, and you only see it for one version. It should be more like, I'm not sure of the exact flow how that would look like, but when you click on this, you should be getting these results for each of the Kubernetes version. And right now it is for only one. So Aditya, after you are done with that, I can help you here with the markdown stuff. So I will we can talk about it on Slack about how we want the markdown to look like. And once I'll push the markdown, can you update the compatibility matrix to reflect that?
Yeah, yes, I think I can do that. We can have like three cells in the open thing, and when you click, when you use it on the cell, it opens, expands, and closes other.
Yeah, that kind of behavior. Yeah, okay, so I'll since folks who took this up last call, I'm hoping no one is working on that, otherwise they would have shown up. So I'll be working on this thing, and I'll ping you, Aditya, when I'll be making changes in the workflow. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next item. Hersh is Hersh here? Okay, yeah, he's here. So Hersh, would you like to talk about your item which you were working on?
Hey, hi. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, barely.
Hello.
Yeah, now you're audible. Yeah.
Right. So I'll share. I'll share my screen. You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
So ultimately, the idea was that we change. So in the Meshery SMP action, we were basically using kubectl apply instead of using what comes with Meshery itself, Meshery CTL itself. So that was the goal. So uh, firstly, what I was able to observe, right, was that it was it's just very silently throwing an error. If you see here, right, for pattern apply, right, if I do this, it's located in the same directory and same working directory as we are, right? If I just run a Meshery CTL pattern apply emoji photo .yaml, then it just very silently gives you a 400 and exits. So even when we're using, let's say, GitHub Actions, right? So in the logs, we just simply get this status code 400 somewhere,
Yeah.
and it just silently fails, right? But whereas when we do a Meshery CTL app onboard, right? So this actually onboards. So ultimately, the idea is that it's not a pattern file. Emoji photo is not a pattern file. It's sort of a Kubernetes application file, and an app onboard is the right way to do it, and that's okay, right? But actually, I sort of had a little bit of a break, and it took me a little while to come back, to understand what was actually going on. So actually, this actually bugged me a lot uh, to that end. That why don't we have a better response for this? So in Meshery, I think I remember in this system logs, I do remember it stating that it cannot find the name at the top of the pattern file. So in the pattern files we have the name at the top, and if we do not supply that particular name, so that was when I found out that this is what was going wrong with this, right? So first was this. Um then similarly, this is when I found out, and I said that istio is a pattern, like the bookstore, like sorry, the book info that we have is actually a pattern, and the rest both are sort of would be imported via app onboard. So this is when I wrote this. Then, like, ultimately I have progress on this and I have everything running, but it's just that istio currently in this particular action runs on pattern apply, while the other two that we have, linkerd and OSM, they basically run on app onboard, right? So that is how we have made this SMP action to be, right? And then there was this one thing, is that what I also found out, that even app on board wasn't always working the first time around with linkerd and OSM. So what was happening there is that I had run this. So ultimately what we are doing is, I can actually show you one odd run there. I think it will help you understand stuff better, right? So what we basically do here is that we install the service mesh. We do everything else. We install even that onboarding application that you see, right? We have onboarded the app as well, and then we open a teammate session just to see if anything wrong is going on, right? So in a few sessions, what I also found out, that when I did a kubectl get pods, I mean, this is just as a reference to show, I wasn't getting any resources, right? I wasn't getting any pods at all. But when I did the entire steps again, right, that I deployed the adapter again and did everything else, because these are the steps that are there in the action itself, right? But when I redid them and then I did kubectl get pods, I was able to get these. So that is another thing that I raised, that it wasn't working reliably. It wasn't working the first time around, right? So that was another thing that I pointed out. And then after that is mainly a chat regarding the issue itself and what other things. So just a couple of review comments. So this was mainly about
that particular issue. I hope it's so. Right now, what I would say is pattern apply is what we are doing for istio, and app onboard is what we're doing for the other two. But even that isn't coming out to be exactly reliable. Yeah, so this is probably how I'd sum that up.
Okay, so with the last thing, were you talking about that? So with app onboard, is the thing inconsistent? So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or if it is
exactly. What I'll do is I'll actually let me show you this, right?
So basically the same steps that are taken place in that particular action, when you do that manually, then the thing works, but here it doesn't.
Right. So I think where exactly is that? Let me see. So this is where we install Meshery. And I think this is where we'll install the service mesh and right. So this is where we install the service mesh and everything, and we do a perf apply. So this is where we do everything, and as I showed you here, right, in the earlier, sorry, I'll just go back a couple of these things, right? So as I showed you, right, so ultimately at this step we were able to what we do is we ultimately have a service mesh running, and then we have an onboarded application on top of it as well, right? And then we initiate a teammate session. So this happens every time, right? So but when I go inside that node and I try and see what's going on there, I do not get pods at all. So this reflects that that is the behavior is inconsistent. And when I do the same steps, these are the same steps that I copied from the the same files. When I do these steps again and then I run this, then I get the pods up and running. Right. So that's that. Right. So for you had, I think you and Ruturaj, I guess you said that that we can you can help convert those into pattern files. So that was one.
Yeah. I'll do it.
So this inconsistency is not with pattern apply, right?
No, this inconsistency is it's only with app onboard.
Actually, the other meshes. What did you say, Ruturaj?
I'm saying it's still like a problem to address, right? If app onboard is not.
Yeah, of course. So okay, so I'll create an issue for that, or Hersh, if you mind, you can, after the call, you can create an issue for this thing in the Meshery score repository. Although this is related to the SMP action, but if, there might be this problem with the app onboard. So just to clarify, you're sure that the same two commands that you run, these same two commands are being run in the workflow itself, or is the workflow trying to do the same thing with different commands, so that
I'm pretty sure these are the same commands because I copied and pasted them.
Okay. I get it. So so until this app onboard inconsistency remains, you're stuck on this PR, right?
Yes, but it does work. I mean, it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, I am, but it does sometimes work, and I have successful tests on it. But those really don't matter until we fix the app onboard issue. On the other side, if we can move to pattern apply, then that makes sense for me as well. So any of the two fixes make sense for me.
Okay. So have you run? Okay. So have you opened design configurator up until now?
No.
So do you have a local instance of Meshery running right now?
Right now, no, I don't have it.
Okay. So
actually, I'm using another laptop, right? So that's what causing.
Okay. So yeah, it's just 3 steps. So there, when you'll open Meshery and you'll go into app, there is an applications page. So when you'll go there, you can import an application. So okay, thank you, Lee, for sharing the screen. So here you can see inside of application. So you can your application can be either your Docker Compose or your general Kubernetes manifest. So if you click on import application, you can basically import a local file or a remote file, whatever it is. And when you'll upload it, you'll see that Kubernetes manifest over here. Or you can, so let's say that, yeah. So can you open one of these files? Yeah. So this is your general Kubernetes manifest. Can you open the networks tab? Okay, so if you just open the network tab, yep. And okay, so now if you click on deploy, so let's say you have already uploaded an application and you click on deploy. So can you, it might fail maybe because an adapter is not running or something, but just deploy it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
click on deploy?
Yeah, bug. I just have to catch this bug real fast because that.
Okay,
yep.
okay.
All right. I may or may not. Like I don't know if I don't know if my machine's. I think it's connected. I don't know if this is a valid. So istio gateway. Like I don't know if I have istio. This would require that I have istio installed.
Yeah. So can you just click on the second request? There were 2 requests. The first one actually converted it to pattern file. Okay, and can you look at the okay, so this whole thing is actually a pattern file over here. Okay, so can you click on the first request? Actually this is, yeah. Can you click at the payload here? Look at the payload of this deploy. Okay. You click the request. I think it would be in request. If you here inside of a response, where we're seeing response at the right side. If you just, so this is the pattern file. So you can just copy paste this thing. So for a particular app, this is the corresponding pattern file, and you can just use this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
Can we also write these steps somewhere if we need them, let's say, because we might, for other meshes as well, find such manifests, right? And not patterns, of course. So I think even that helps.
Yeah. So, okay. So where should I note it so that it is persistent enough for future use? I think it makes sense to me to, although this is more like a developer thing. So actually I was going to request some kind of a button which converts because we can convert a manifest into a pattern file, but I think that's not an end user specific thing. That's more of a, okay. So I might write this on the doc, but I think that won't be consistent. The Slack chat is also not consistent enough. So should we have this in the documentation itself? Yep. Yeah, makes sense to have. Or maybe I can write, this can be a blog post as well, so that we can just refer users back to that, contributors back to this thing. Yeah, so for now, Hersh, you've got it right? So for I'll create a blog post for other people, but I hope you've got it for now. And if you run into anything, you can ping me on Slack.
By the way, if you don't mind, I can write the blog post. I'm kind of trying to get into writing.
Okay, yeah, of course. Thank you, Ruturaj. It would be nice to have a blog post from you. So can you create, I don't think instead of creating an issue, you know how to create a PR for a blog post, right? Do you know? So we have a layer 5 IO/layer 5 repository, and so Lee, will you open that PR repository?
Yeah. Actually, just this is. I think this has just happened in the last couple of days. There's a community handbook, and then the last couple of days, I believe there's a new page out there about a writing program and about how to do this. So Devapriya Bhattacharjee had just published this, and so she's certainly one to engage with as well. But Ashish, you were saying also, if you just skip right to it, yeah, that you would PR the layer 5 IO/layer 5 repo. One thing that you'll want to try to ensure happens is that you might want to, we should probably make sure that this is at the very top, is to just sort of get it in queue, or get the idea in queue for being promoted, being up for review, and kind of being promoted across the social channels. And that way we can make some noise about it. So we might want to, yeah, but anyway, this is a good starting point. Don't let that stop you from like either writing. If you do write it in a Google Doc at first, you might try to just like write it in Markdown anyway, because you'll end up taking it from Google Doc to Markdown. So.
Yeah, I'll let you mark down.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the Hersh, you are good to go, right?
Yes.
I think he's in the call. Yep, he's not. So we'll skip that thing. He has an open PR and it's been open for a while now. So if he doesn't respond by this week, so either I'll take this up or someone else can take this up. Okay, so going on to the next item, which is for Mario, and I think he's absent as well. Okay, so yeah, so okay, so I was relying on Mario to talk about end-to-end tests for Cypress end-to-end tests for multi-cluster, because due to multi-cluster, a lot has changed in UI, and that is failing Cypress tests. So we need new Cypress tests that takes into account the end-to-end tests. And so I think we can take this conversation on Slack. I'll ask him about what his views are on this thing, or what is his approach for this thing, so that if others want to, if someone else wants to engage, basically you can raise your hand and engage with Mario for this thing, so that he has some comrades to work with. So if you're, so I think, yeah, good, Rohit. So can you just on Slack, can you just coordinate with Mario to figure out
Yeah, sure.
assertions? Yeah, thank you, Rohit. Yeah, so if everything goes well, by next in next call, I'll be expecting some here a PR from you here in the Cypress test for after the multi-cluster thing. Yeah, and that brings us to the end of the call. Does anyone have any other issues, or okay, so we have Hamza here. So Hamza, so are the tests passing now in your console adapter now? The PR that you had there, are the tests passing?
No, not yet. And also, I don't know, when I try to generate the hashcaps pattern file on my machine, I think my machine is weak or something, but it freezes. It kind of does not generate it. So I don't know if it's a bug or it's a problem on my end.
So
Because I wanted to add the pattern, starts the phase.
actually leave that the results for this test. I'll share my screen. Yeah, so okay, so your tests are failing because your test fails at the very last step. So
That's probably an assertion.
Yeah, I guess it's the so
Because you put
basically,
assets and it fails at the last.
yeah, it says no resources.
Yeah.
So basically, the tests are failing because it can't find any resources here. Hmm, that's peculiar. The tests are not okay. So, are you? Is this basically is this rebased with the upstream? So is this in sync or is this way out of sync and behind PRs? Because we had a lot of changes. We had to push some changes that were making these tests fail, and now the tests are not failing on the upstream. So the test shouldn't fail here as well. And so on this step, on the pattern apply step, this error basically means that the pattern wasn't applied successfully, although you had console mesh there. It shouldn't be the case. So yeah, Hamza, are you rebased with the master or are you behind?
I updated it to use the resource-based core pattern, the resource-based core workflow, but I haven't rebased because I saw Lee pushed some commits, I think like yesterday or the day before yesterday. Yeah, he pushed some commits to this branch, but I have not yet rebased it. I've been struggling with this pattern file thing, but I've
So
I've sent Ruturaj the Kubernetes manifest, so I hope it works on his environment. Then I will use it in and put it in sync. Then also put the pattern file in the end-to-end test.
okay, you can remove the Skates version from here as well, because as the Thagat pointed out, this thing is now redundant, as we were talking about it as the first item of the call. So you can get rid of this. This is of no use now. Other than the fact that other than the fact that we are still hard coding it to the docs. So if you will remove that, although that is redundant, we in the UI it won't show anything. So I think we should let Aditya make his change first, and then we can. Okay, so what? So are you sure that these two pods are the pods that we expect when you basically locally deploy that particular pattern file on your system, console client and console server?
Consul server, there are two, but they are both named Consul server. But then Consul client is one. So I don't know if I should add another Consul server here.
Yeah, okay. So there are two pods. So basically two replicas of console server that come up and one console client. But inside of
Yeah.
But inside of your action, they're not coming up. Nothing is coming up, right? Inside of the action. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll try to debug it, and I'll actually take this over from you. If I'd need your help, I'll tell you, and I'll push changes on your PR here, so that and I'll keep pushing it until I'll push 2 or 3 commits where I think the issue might be, and after the tests are passing, I think we should merge it because it's a long-standing PR. Is it fine with you?
Yeah.
And if I find a particular problem that might fix it, I'll first ping you for that you should go and make that change. And if you don't reply within like 48 hours, and if you're busy with something else, then I can go ahead and do it, because you've already worked on it enough. I mean, this is from 14th April, so I think we should get it merged. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that was all the items that we had for today. If someone has any doubts or anything, now would be the time. We have few minutes left before we end the call. Oh, okay. So we have a newcomer on the call. So, hey Arya, would you like to introduce yourself? I think you joined in late, I might have missed you.
Yeah, myself Arya. I'm a computer science student in second year. I'm new to the community, and yeah, just trying to learn different things currently.
Okay, nice. So, what are the things that you work on? Tests? What?
Like currently, I am familiar with like web development, like full stack development. I know Django and some frameworks like React. Other than that, like I'm familiar with Python. I'm proficient in Python rather.
Okay, okay. So any plans of picking up Go? Because I've seen a lot of people from Python coming to Go because of these similarities, just in the syntax.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, recently I was trying to participate in the Go Hacks hackathon. So over there, I've learned a little bit of Go. So yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
nice. So yeah, we have a lot of React issues opened, so that would be a great starting point. So if you want to contribute, were you there in yesterday's call? Because yesterday we have a dev call and there a lot of issues were being discussed.
no, this is my first call.
Okay, nice. So we have a dev call every week. So make sure to join next week. And by that time, you can cruise around the repo, the Meshery repo and all the other repos, and you might find one or two good first issues. There are always one laying around. So that before your next dev call, you have some grease on your hands.
Sure, sure.
Okay, thank you, Arya.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think we have covered everyone.
Yeah. Hey, just a bit, I've been kind of, since we have a couple of minutes, I just want to give an update to all of you because I think it is a reflection of your work. This week in Austin, which is where I'm based, there's a open source summit is the name of it. It's a combination of a bunch of different conferences. I think there's about 1,200 people here, so it's relatively small, but that kind of makes it nice because you get to catch up with people. Actually, there's a community member, Shivai Lamba, who had been like one of the, I don't know how to put it, one of the first or just a very early community member. He's from the same university, I think, that Ashish is, if I recall. Ashish, do you know?
Yeah.
Is he okay? Yeah, okay. A couple of, there's various degrees of smart people that go to that university. So I'm not sure, like, anyway, he's here in Austin. He traveled over. He's giving a talk about layer 5 meshmates, which is pretty fantastic. So he's been here a couple of years and can't get enough. Like yeah. Anyway, it's great. What a great story. I'd love for that to be the same story or much more for a lot of you. So sometimes some of you will be kind enough to join me or others on stage and talk about the projects and the works that you're doing. Actually, a different meshmate Aditya Krishna just got done presenting at, I think, Docker Bangalore, a meetup there. There's a Docker community leader here, Adina Rav. Like, there's a lot going on anyway. The reason I kind of interjected to mention something is to say that the engineering team behind Docker Hub, well, the way that, I don't know how many folks know this, but Docker Hub, like, it's not the world's only container registry. There are any number of container registries now, but it's kind of the de facto, the default, if you will. Tons, thousands. I have no idea the numbers that they deal with in terms of images pushed and pulled. If you recall, it was a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half or so. There's now rate limiting being done on the pulls that happen for repositories, and so we had given the community. Actually, it was Kanishkar J. I think he's off doing a different full-time job now, but he had joined me at DockerCon on stage and talked about WebAssembly and how you can intelligently rate limit pull requests and stuff. And so anyway, advanced to today, that engineering team is saying that they're smitten with Meshery and with Meshmap, and they want to, as they look to get off of their HA proxy infrastructure, which runs in AWS, they'd like to kind of hold hands, so to speak, with the project and move toward a service mesh and use the the tools that have been built here as they go forth. And so that's great. Yeah, like what a great set of use cases. I expect them to stub their toe on a bug or 12, or on a bug or 3. But kudos to all of you. It's and it really says something about the work that you're doing. Like we're just earlier, you guys are talking about applying patterns, onboarding apps, just all the tests that go on, the mechanics, the compatibility matrix, that all rolls up into someone being able to use the tools being valuable. And yeah, so if you think about it, the engineering team responsible for the world's largest container hub being up and available, they're coming to these tools for help. Yeah. If you have your resume handy, I'd go write that down somewhere. Like, it's a pretty cool thing. So if you see bugs opened up, like with respect to the Docker engineering team and what they're trying to get done, help them out, or be kind. So cool.
Okay. Thank you for motivation. And then it's nice to hear kind words, so that we know that our work has been basically is out there and people are noticing it. And from what it looks like, a lot of people are noticing it, and the number should grow in future. Okay. So we are still 4 minutes short, but I think we are at the end of the call now. And this call happens bi-weekly, so this will happen next week again, and we would be expecting PRs from a few folks by that time. So up until next week, see you all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well,